Sometimes we as dungeon masters can get a little bit caught up on all the details of encounter planning, dungeon maps, NPCs, and monster stats, and we might lose sight of some really important things. Today on Dungeon Master's Journey, we're going to be taking a step back from all of that and talking about the mindset of the Dungeon Master. So before we get too far into the topic of the video today, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you for your support of this channel. A couple of days ago, we just reached a big milestone, and that is the 50,000 subscriber mark here on YouTube. I am absolutely floored. If you would have talked to me about this 4 years ago when I started this channel, I would never have believed you. And it's all because of you guys. I want to thank you so much for liking my videos, for interacting with me in the comments, and being such a cool community. And I look forward to many more years and hours sitting in front of this camera, talking to you about RPGs and interacting with you online. It's been awesome, so let's keep it going. Onward, tally-ho! Alright, now the topic of the video, the mindset of the Dungeon Master, or perhaps we could say the spirit of Dungeon Mastery. 5 characteristics of the highly effective Dungeon Master. The first aspect of the Dungeon Master's mindset that I want to talk about is coming to the table with a mindset that is not overly adversarial with the players. There is some natural tension here. You as the Dungeon Master are to be feared, but not only feared. Sometimes I think you need to be a cheerleader for the players. You need to show them that you're on their side and celebrate with them in their successes. Remember that if it comes to an adversarial relationship, there's really absolutely no competition. You as the Dungeon Master can kill their characters at any moment. While I'm sure you want to provide good challenges, don't be too disappointed when they thwart your plans and when they end up beating something really easily that you thought was going to be incredibly hard. Learn your lesson, make it a little harder for the next time, and celebrate their successes and let them feel like powerful heroes from time to time. Yet at the same time, if I'm sitting down at your table, I also want the game world to feel like a dangerous place. There should be peril, the threat of death, and all of this. So striking that balance I think is really important. But overall, maintain good relationship. I've seen that bit of bickering at the table before, and some of that's bound to happen here and there, but try to minimize it and maintain a positive relationship that is not overly adversarial with your players. The second aspect I wanted to talk about is the Dungeon Master as friend, or at least friendly. And this kind of relates to the first point, but now I'm not talking about in the game so much. I'm talking about the actual social relationships. I think that we should not forget that Dungeons and Dragons is a game. It is a hobby. It is something to enjoy, usually with friends. Inviting people to your table, I think you should be inviting them to be your friend. Doesn't mean that you have to hang out outside of game night, that you don't have to walk away from the table being best buds, but try to befriend them, show that you care about them and ask about their lives. Encourage friendly relationships between your players too. I think it starts with you as Dungeon Master, and I think that you as the DM are a leader, and so you do have some responsibility if you see that player A is disrespecting player B, or saying something that offends them. I think that sometimes you can deal with this problem behavior in-game. For example, I've had players that are a little bit too chatty and seem to be hogging the spotlight. In cases like that, I can sometimes deal with that in-game. I can have an NPC that comments on the fact that they talk too much. I can have an NPC who actually interrupts them and cuts them off and asks the other players a question. There are ways to deal with some of these social aspects of the game in-game, but sometimes, honestly, you do have to have those hard and usually kind of awkward conversations with a player or with the whole group. If there's a relationship that just needs some mending, or there's an apology needed. And sometimes at the end of the day, not all game groups work well together, unfortunately. But again, I think it starts with you as the Dungeon Master, you being friendly, and then also being observant and expecting that from your players. Here in the ICRPG core book, this is the first edition book, there's this Game Master's Oath in here that I really like. And one of the things that Hankerin says here is that the Game Master is a beacon of camaraderie. A gathering at the table for mugs and stories is one of the oldest, greatest traditions of our world. Always remember that friendship, love, teamwork, and togetherness are the reasons we play. Anything else for any reason is simply unacceptable. Be out in the open with this standard. Always greeting with a smile and an open hand. Always being a masterful host and treating each and every player as a true friend and equal. I think this is absolutely beautifully put, and I'll be reading from this for the next one too. The third aspect of the Dungeon Master's mindset that I think is important is the DM being comfortable fading into the background. I think that you as the Dungeon Master have a lot of power. You control the monsters, the NPCs, the environment, but I encourage you not to inhabit any one of those roles too strongly. If you identify too strongly with one NPC, then you're acting like a player at the table, and I generally try to avoid that. I had someone actually comment on a video a couple weeks ago with something I really liked. He said that when he has new players come to the table, he tells them that I, as the DM, am not here. It is you in this world being immersed. And when you're interacting with me, you're not really interacting with me as the Dungeon Master, you're interacting with the world, the environment, the monsters, the NPCs. I think that's a really great mindset to have, that you as the Dungeon Master need to be comfortable fading into the background. Let the heroes shine. Let them do their thing. And sit back and listen. Being a good listener is absolutely part of this, because if you're a good listener, you can pick up on those things that the players are saying, you can get good ideas from them, and you can absolutely get story hooks that you can use to draw your players deeper into the narrative and bringing them back to the table for more. As the ICRPG book says, lift them up and vanish. The story is not about you. It's about the heroes. You are only visible when there is no other way. You are the player's biggest fan. You cringe when they fail and celebrate when they soar. Never outshine them. All your NPCs and dangers are stepping stones to their greatness, never your own. The fourth aspect of the Dungeon Master's mindset that I think is important is having the mindset of a shepherd. Being willing to lead, to guide, but also sometimes to give a little jab with that staff. Sometimes you gotta prod players. Sometimes you gotta push them and stretch their limits. I think of the Dungeon Master kind of like a coach sometimes. A coach who's encouraging them to do a few more push-ups, run a couple more lines, and really getting them in shape. I think that's important, that you as the Dungeon Master are stretching their ability to role play. You're putting them in situations that are extremely difficult, that they think we can never get out of this, and then somehow they find a way. And this part might sound kind of crazy, but I think part of the role of a Dungeon Master is to lead your players into being better people, because that's the power of storytelling. We encounter stories that change the way we look at life and the world, and we're better people because of that. So embrace that storytelling power that you as the Dungeon Master have, and really push and stretch your players in the game. Now, as a lead into my fifth and final aspect of the Dungeon Master's mindset, I want to recognize that for new players and new Dungeon Masters coming to the game, a lot of this can sound like a little bit overwhelming. The Dungeon Master seems to be giving and giving and giving, and the players are taking and taking and get all the glory. And is that really fun? And the answer is yes. Being a Dungeon Master can be really, really fun, but it might not be for everybody. I do think that the Dungeon Master as giver, which is the final mindset I want to discuss, is mostly true. The Dungeon Master should be gracious and generous and want the players to shine, but there are also limits to that. And if you are not having fun as the Dungeon Master, it's okay to bring that up. Don't let your group walk all over you. If you have expectations and you have a certain style you prefer and your players are doing something totally contrary to that, that needs to be addressed. And I would hope that there's a conversation where you can kind of set some expectations together and talk about your preferred style, and they can talk about theirs, and maybe there's some compromise and you have to find that middle ground where you all can have fun. Contrary to some of the things I may have implied earlier in the video, it's not all about the players. You as the Dungeon Master should be having fun too. So these are 5 aspects of the Dungeon Master's mindset that I feel are important, but as always, I want to hear from you down in the comments below, whether you have questions, you're confused about things, or whether you're an experienced DM who has some advice that you would give for other Dungeon Masters. Leave it all down below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. I'd like to close by thanking my patrons for their support. Patrons are people who support this channel on a monthly basis, and they are really making it happen for me here on WASD 20. If you enjoy my content and you're interested in learning how you can support, check out the Patreon link in the video description. Even $1 a month, though it might not seem like much, can all add up to make a huge difference in supporting this channel and what I do. Whether you're a patron or not, though, thank you so much for watching this video, and everybody take care. You'll see me again very soon.